Marvel has added a new character to its cinematic universe, and it's Morbius, the living vampire. I keep wanting to say Morpheus, like the dream guy, so if I mess up, I'm sorry. Now, a little bit of backstory about me. When I was younger, I got super into comics, did this huge backlog for the big two, a lot of which became immediately irrelevant because I think I got into comics around the time that DC started the New 52. Sad times. But I was super into it for a while. Over time, however, my interests kind of narrowed down to either whatever I like or specifically more indie comics, web comics. So when my friend messaged me in the middle of the night and asked me what I knew about Morbius, the answer was nothing. I knew nothing about Morbius. My sum total knowledge of Morbius begins and ends with nothing. My brain definitely did the like hard window shutdown noise. And so I did what any person would do. I Googled him. One of the first things that came up was this Marvel website that kind of like details all the characters' powers and abilities and their biographies. I want to start off by saying that I do not envy whoever has to write all of these, because could you imagine detailing everything that goes on with Cable, for example? Like the Pepe Sylvia board you would need for that. So they're definitely all probably doing their best. This isn't a critique of that. But as soon as I deep dove into this particular detailing of this character, I was immediately tickled and delighted by what I saw. Now, there are certain things that come with the vampire genre in general. Anybody who's ever been into vampires, and that's most people who have been, 14, knows that the vampire genre comes with a few things. And that's angst and drama, and of course, the thirst for blood. This is cranberry juice. Now, let me just whet your appetite, if you will, with this first excerpt that immediately let me know that I wanted to click on the more info button. Michael Morbius attempts to cure his lifelong blood disease with experimental vampire bat science. In the process, he turns himself into a living vampire, tortured by his life-sustaining thirst. Art. Just a couple of things here. Right off the bat, vampire bat science. What does that mean? I don't know. I think immediately when I looked over to the right and it said like, oh, he has a PhD in biochemistry, I was just kind of like, yeah, of course he does. Lots of the Marvel characters are smart. But I was not expecting the words vampire bat science, I'm gonna be honest. I also want to know what vampire bats are gonna do for your blood disease. I'm not exactly sure what kind of blood disease he has, if it's a made-up one, but if I remember correctly, don't vampire bats just like annoy farmers by drinking cattle blood? So that's unfortunate, but like also, what does that have to do with curing your blood disease? I don't know. Whatever. That's not the most important bit of news we receive in this article though, because as soon as I clicked to learn more, I got his backstory, which is also, pardon my pun, delicious. So in his first iteration, which is in the blood, he is raised by his mother and his father is mostly absent. I think his father does something weird, like abstract film, horror films, something weird, unrelated to anything, but he's not really in the picture. And his rare blood disease kind of prevents him from playing like a normal kid, but he does have a best friend named Nico. Something happens, and basically him and Nico vow that they're gonna find a cure for his rare blood disease. And so they go off to college together and start studying biochemistry and do this research into vampire bat blood to try and help Morbius cure his disease. And while it doesn't quite cure him, they do win a Nobel Prize for it. So there's that. So they go on this trip on a boat. The boat part's important. I don't really know why they're on this trip. It has something to do with research, but it's Morbius, his fiance, and Nico. And they're on this trip, and Morbius is disappointed with how slow the whole cure thing is going. So he decides to electrocute himself? I don't really know how this is. Okay, vampire bat blood. Okay, whatever. Vampires. Blood, I get it, but like electricity? So he puts on this suit that has this like high collar, which I guess becomes his distinct look, this kind of like bodysuit, the high collar. I don't have anything like that. I can try popping my collar. No. So he puts on this suit and, you know, electrocutes himself because the only thing that will cure his disease apparently is 8,000 volts directly to the nipples. It doesn't really cure his disease, no surprise there, but it does turn him into a living vampire with a lust for blood. So he attacks his friend Nico, F in the chat, and before he can hurt his fiance, he jumps over the side of the ship and into the ocean. Now this part is marvelous to me because just the pure image of the angst and drama of someone being like, no, I mustn't hurt you, I must go, and jumping into the water is fucking hilarious to me. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture to drop in here because I didn't actually look for a picture and there wasn't one in the description, but I'm certain that it's fabulous. Anyway, a fishing ship picks him up and he ends up back in New York. The next excerpt and description is from the arc A Monster Marvel, and in this paragraph alone, there is a lot to unpack. In his vampiric state, Morbius's face changes to look more bat-like. His bones also become partially hollow, which allow him to ride wind currents as if he's flying. His new form also gives him heightened senses, as well as increased stamina, speed, strength, and durability. He survives many a potentially deadly injury, only to bounce back with barely a scratch. Unfortunately, all of these wondrous abilities come about because he needs to feed on the blood of the living. I want to state that my genius friend's initial response to this was vampire kite in all caps because of the hollow bones thing, which I didn't even think about, but is fucking brilliant. I was too busy wondering how he could both have hollow bones and be durable. Like, I don't know that I would call him durable, but I guess like because he can heal himself with his vampire healing abilities, he's durable, but hollow bones and durability don't really go together, I'm gonna be honest. And I love the idea of like the need to mention that all of this comes about from his need for blood. I love it. It's angsty. I get it. I was 14 once too. I wore red fishnet shirts with black shirts over them. Like, I was there. I was all about that vampire life. And to be fair to him, he does not have the same weaknesses as your regular vampire, your average go-to dead vampire. So things like garlic, crosses, sunlight don't really affect him. Also, there was a whole arc where like he consumes Lilin blood, like Lilith, the first demon, and he can liquefy his fucking body. Now, I have no idea what that has to do with vampires, and I've never really heard about vampires liquefying themselves. Maybe like fog counts or mist or whatever, but that's fucking amazing. Could you imagine? Like, it's gross to imagine actually, because it's just like a puddle of Morbius, but like, ooh, got some Morbius on my shoe. I also think I'm missing some information here because it says he wears like a protective leather bodysuit. What is it protecting him from? What does leather protect? I guess motorcycle people. Motorcyclists. There's a word for that. I guess motorcyclists wear leather so that when they fall off their bike, it protects their skin. But like, what does he have to worry about? Isn't he durable? Didn't we have this whole freaking conversation at the beginning of this? Like, protective leather bodysuit. Just, you're a thought. It's okay. It's okay. Now, I don't have time to go through all the ridiculous bullshit that's in this timeline. I will try and drop the link to it in the description box, so if you're bored or you need a laugh or whatever, you can read it. I will mention that he has appeared with other such well-known figures as Doctor Strange, Daredevil, Blade, Ghost Rider. I can't think of Ghost Rider anymore without thinking of Nick Cage. Aren't they rebooting it? I don't fucking know. I know they're rebooting Blade. I almost said Flame On, but that's Johnny. Anyway, I feel like they kind of dump all of the weirdos into the Doctor Strange universe, and for good reason, because what are you supposed to do with a liquid vampire? And also Doctor Strange. But he's definitely fought Doctor Strange. There's this whole part where Doctor Strange, I guess, banishes IRL vampires off the face of the planet, what happened to Blade during that time? Did he just not have a job? Did he get banished off the planet? And then somebody uses Morbius's blood to turn Doctor Strange into a vampire. Morbius doesn't get banished because he's a living vampire. Whatever that, as opposed to a dead vampire, I guess. He also does his rounds as a good guy for a while. I get the feeling he's kind of an anti-hero, and that's probably how they'll present him. Kind of like Venom, my favorite romantic comedy. So I think they're gonna probably go the like anti-hero route since he's getting his own movie. Before this video ends, I do kind of want to leave you with one more kind of hilarious excerpt because it's kind of too hilarious to ignore. So here we go. After Michael was found adrift by the fishing vessel, his thirst grew so great that he fed on too many of the crewmen, drawing unwanted attention. He re-entered the water once again, washing up on Southampton, where a 6-armed Spider-Man happened to be staying. My friend highlighted this for me, and I honestly think part of it was the fucking absurdity of the casualness with which where a 6-armed Spider-Man happened to be staying was stated, because that's hilarious. But like, sure, fuck yeah, comic books. Or just Southampton, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know who wrote this bio, but they seem to be having a lot of fun with it, and I'm glad, because this origin story is hilarious on its own, but they definitely raised it a tier. And writing this kind of stuff seems pretty tedious to me, so I should hope that the people are having fun. I don't actually have any hopes for much of this making it into the movie. Hold on, take a fucking sip. I forgot to drink for the last thirst anyway. I don't actually have very strong hopes that a lot of this will make it into the movie, only because the Marvel Cinematic Universe seems to have a brand for most of its stuff, especially the stuff owned by Disney. Part of the reason the Doctor Strange sequel got halted is because the director had visions for a cosmic horror film, which, yes, makes sense for Doctor Strange, makes so much sense for Doctor Strange, but whatever. The cinematic universe seems to have a very homogenous vision for their heroes to try and keep them all together, which I think is a little bit world-breaking in a lot of cases, but whatever. So I'm a little bit hesitant to think that some of the finer points, such as the vampire bat science, will make it into this glorious film. But I sure hope just a little bit of this batshit crazy energy does. But I digress. Thank you for joining me for this quick bite. And if you're bored, or you just need a laugh, don't forget to check out the description box for the rest of this bio, because it's super, super amazing. So, with that, so long, and good night. I already tried to film this once, but somebody in my house was vacuuming, and the hubris of man, I thought that like it wouldn't show up, but it was in the whole video. My friend said that if I could rip the sound out of the video, he could fix it, but like it's just a lost cause. So shout out to the people in my house for being quiet today. I appreciate it.